Have you ever stopped to think about what software actually runs the world's biggest companies? I mean, the massive, kind of invisible engines that handle everything from payroll for 1 million people to tracking every single widget a global corporation makes. It's not flashy, but man, it is powerful.
So that brings up a really interesting question. What programming language is hiding behind the curtain, making all of this happen? It's probably not one you've heard of unless you're deep in the industry. But trust me, its impact is absolutely everywhere. Okay, so let's get into it. The answer really starts with this thing called SAP. The easiest way to think about SAP is like a gigantic, pre-built corporate headquarters. I mean, it comes with standard departments already set up for finance, HR, logistics, the whole shebang. Everything a huge company needs to function, right out of the box. But here's the catch. No two giant companies are exactly the same, right? And that's where ABAP comes in. It's the specialized language, the custom set of tools that you use to modify that giant headquarters. So the ABAP developer, or ABAPer, they're like the digital architect who gets called in to add a new wing, or redesign a workflow, or build a custom dashboard just for the CEO.
So, in this explainer, we're going to unpack what these digital architects really do. We'll take a look at the ABAPer's toolkit. Using this really handy framework, we'll see how they make data visible, how they move it and change it, and then finally, where all these skills actually get used in the real world. So, what's actually in this digital architect's toolkit? Well, an ABAP developer's job really boils down to solving a handful of super critical business problems, which, conveniently, are often grouped into 6 main categories. And to get our heads around this toolkit, there's a classic acronym from the SAP world, RICE-FW. It's a simple little framework, but it perfectly outlines what an ABAPer does all day: reports, interfaces, conversions, enhancements, forms, and workflow. So let's break each of those down. First up, we've got R for reports. And at its core, this is all about one of the most fundamental needs of any business, just being able to see and understand your own data. The request from the business floor usually sounds something just like this. They've got literal mountains of sales figures, employee info, and supply chain data all locked away in the system. But that data is totally useless if you can't see it in a way that answers a specific question, Like, which of our products are selling best in Southeast Asia this quarter? And this is where the ABAPer steps in. Their solution is to build a custom report. It's a program that dives deep into the database, grabs precisely the right information, and then presents it clearly. Basically, they turn that mountain of raw data into something you can actually use to make a decision. Now, it's not enough to just look at data. Businesses need to move it around. And that brings us to the next 2 letters in our RICFW toolkit, I and C for interfaces and conversions. They both sound similar. They're all about moving data, but they solve very, very different problems. So what's the big difference? It's all about timing. An interface is like setting up a live, dedicated phone line between SAP and another system. Data is flowing back and forth all the time. A conversion, though, that's like moving boxes from your old office into the new one. It's a huge, one-time data dump that usually happens when a company first implements SAP. And hey, for those of you who like a little technical flavor, ABAP developers have a whole suite of specialized tools just for these jobs. You'll hear them throw around terms like ALE and BAPI for building those live interfaces, and then you've got these workhorses like BDC or LSMW for handling the heavy lifting of those massive one-time data conversions. All right, next up we have E and F, enhancements and forms. Now this is where the ABAPer really gets to act like an architect, changing that standard SAP building to perfectly fit the way their company does business. And this gets to the absolute golden rule of enterprise development. You add new stuff without breaking what's already there. It's the ultimate challenge, right? It's like customize the building all you want, but you can't touch the foundation or the main plumbing, ever. So an enhancement is where the ABAPer adds new logic, like maybe a custom validation rule on a screen. Forms, on the other hand, are all about crafting the company's public face. The official invoices, purchase orders, or offer letters that actually go out into the world. They have to be pixel perfect. Okay, now for the final piece of our RICE-FW puzzle, W for workflow. And then we're going to zoom out and see the big picture of the kinds of projects where all these skills actually come together. Think about it. A manager has to approve a vacation request, or a director has to sign off on a multi-million-dollar purchase.
These things can't just happen in a vacuum. They need a clear, automated process with a bunch of different steps and approvals.
And that is exactly the job of workflow. It lets the ABAPers build those automated approval chains right inside SAP, making sure everything gets to the right person at the right time and is tracked exactly according to company rules. So where do ABAPers actually use this whole RICFW toolkit? Well, they might be on these massive multi-year implementation projects, building SAP from scratch. Or they could be on shorter upgrade projects. A lot of them work in ongoing support, fixing bugs and building new features for a live system. And then there are rollouts, which happen when their company buys another one and needs to extend SAP to the new division. And all of this really brings us back to one big final thought. ABAP exists for one simple reason. When you have a business operating on a global scale, with all its own unique processes built up over decades, a standard one-size-fits-all solution is just never going to be enough.